Story number 1, The Haunted Triptych Painting. I remember that one time a group of my friends and I decided to investigate a legend we had heard about a haunted mansion in the countryside. The mansion had been standing for centuries and was said to contain a renowned art collection, including a triptych painting that was rumored to be cursed. The painting depicted a medieval battle, and according to the legend, the figures in the painting would move and whisper to each other at night, emitting an eerie light. We set up camp in one of the old bedrooms and waited for nightfall. As the hours ticked by, we began to feel uneasy and heard strange noises coming from the hallway. We eventually made our way to the room where the triptych painting hung, and what we saw was more terrifying than we could have ever imagined. The figures in the painting had come to life and were no longer confined to their frames. They moved and fought as if they were in a real battle, with swords and arrows flying through the air. We tried to leave the room, but the door was locked, and we were trapped. As the night wore on, we watched in horror as the battle continued to rage on the canvas. We tried everything we could think of to break the spell, but nothing worked. It wasn't until the early hours of the morning that the painting suddenly went back to being a lifeless work of art. The experience shook us to our core, and we left the mansion that morning traumatized by what we had witnessed. We never spoke of the experience again, but the memory of the haunted triptych painting stayed with us forever. Story number 2, The Cursed Triptych Mirror. I remember that my partner and I once stumbled upon a triptych mirror in a small antique store that immediately caught our attention. The mirror had 3 panels, each with intricate carvings and designs. We were drawn to the mirror's unique beauty and decided to buy it for our home. At first, the mirror seemed like a harmless decoration, but soon we discovered that there was something strange about it. Whenever we stood in front of the mirror, we felt a strange energy emanating from it. It was as if the mirror had a mind of its own. One day, we discovered that the mirror had a mysterious power. It could grant wishes, but with a terrible twist. Every wish that we made came true, but in a twisted and unexpected way. For example, when I wished for a new dress, the mirror delivered a beautiful gown that was cursed with the power to make me ill every time I wore it. We soon found ourselves trapped in a nightmare from which we couldn't escape. The mirror seemed to be controlling our lives, granting wishes that were increasingly dangerous and sinister. We became afraid to even make a wish, but we couldn't bear to part with the cursed mirror. Finally, after weeks of living in fear, we decided to take action. We sought out a wise old woman who was rumored to have knowledge of the supernatural. She examined the mirror and told us that it was cursed by an ancient entity, and the only way to break the curse was to destroy the mirror. Story number 3, The Possessed Triptych Altar. I remember hearing about a small village that had an old church that had been standing for centuries. Inside the church was an altar that was made up of 3 panels, each one depicting a different religious scene. The triptych altar had been in use for hundreds of years and was considered a sacred object by the villagers. However, one day, strange things began to happen in the church. Parishioners reported seeing the figures in the triptych altar move and whisper to each other. Some claimed to have been physically attacked by an unseen force, and others said that they heard strange voices coming from the altar. As the reports of supernatural occurrences increased, the church decided to perform an exorcism to rid the altar of the evil presence. The ceremony was performed by the local priest, and the villagers gathered around the altar to witness it. At first, the exorcism seemed to be working. The figures in the triptych altar became still, and the church grew quiet. But then, as the priest continued with the ceremony, the figures in the altar began to move again. This time, their movements were more violent and chaotic than before. The priest realized that he was dealing with a powerful demonic entity that was possessing the altar. He called for backup, and a team of experienced exorcists was brought in to help. The exorcism lasted for days, and the team of exorcists struggled to contain the powerful demon that was inhabiting the triptych altar. In the end, they were able to expel the demon and cleanse the altar of its dark energy. However, the experience left the villagers shaken and afraid. They realized that even their most sacred objects could be corrupted by evil forces. The triptych altar was removed from the church and replaced with a new, less ornate altar. But the memory of the possessed Triptych altar stayed with the villagers for generations to come.